This morning, the latest unemployment figures in the U.S. came out, and they showed an increase in filings last week for the first time in several weeks. That news comes as lawmakers are still at odds on a new relief package. Here to talk about how this could impact our economic recovery going forward is senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick of Bankrate.com. Welcome, Mark.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So certainly it's disappointing that those filings went up, even though it's not all too surprising considering what's happening on Capitol Hill as well as with the pandemic. What is your take on it?
Well, I think that this is sort of the story of 2020, right, where we seem to make some progress and then we backtrack a little bit. If we want to look for some good news, I would say number one, overall, the number of continuing claims, of the claims that continue to be paid, did move lower. So that is different from the headline number where we moved back above 1 million. And here in the state of California, we were essentially flat in the latest week, but these numbers for any state and for California in particular remain remarkably elevated. So we want to continue to make progress, but we know that the unemployment rate nationally right now is right around 10%. We'll see what August looks like, and when we get those numbers in a few weeks in early September. But 1 week's number is not really something we should focus too much on, but we need to remember with each of the individuals who's filing a new claim for unemployment benefits, that speaks to the struggle that an individual, and in some cases a breadwinner for a family, is going through, and that's heartbreaking at any level.
Mark, I know it's not easy to predict or virtually impossible, but if you could get out your crystal ball, we'd appreciate it. And can you give us a sense, given all the factors, of what people can expect as we head through 2020?
Well, there obviously is no shortage of sources of uncertainty at this point, whether it is the virus itself, the economy's response to it, our human response to it, as well as the fact that schools are starting up, and we know how that has been uneven, to say the least, all across the country. Ultimately, the way the economy proceeds is going to be very much tied to our reaction to the virus and the way the virus itself behaves. And ultimately, we know the solution to that is tied to the availability of safe and effective vaccines. And we know that that is probably at least a number of months off. But we are making progress with the economy, but we're still in a highly elevated state of unemployment, whether it's the number of new claims for unemployment benefits that we've seen now for 22 straight weeks, most of those weeks above 1 million, and in some cases well above 1 million. I think that we're just coming off a historic contraction in the economy in the second quarter. We'll likely have a historic rebound in the current third quarter, but it'll be some time before we get back to pre-pandemic levels, depending on the sector of the economy you're looking at, not to mention the lost income that many Americans have suffered, whether through unemployment, fewer hours worked, or a cut in pay.
Your best advice to families who are trying to get through this uncertainty?
Well, the first thing is most Americans are employed. And so for those who continue to have their jobs, this is the time to stick to your budget, pay down debt, to try to save for emergencies and retirement. For those who are newly jobless, absolutely do file for whatever aid is available, including the aid from the state of California. We want to make sure that we remain in communication with our creditors, whether it involves paying rent, paying a mortgage that we might be falling behind on. Any bills that we're struggling with, the worst thing that one can do is go AWOL. We really need to remain in constant contact with these creditors to say, hey, you know what? I just lost my job. I'm having a hard time paying my bills, and I want to let you know that this is my situation. What can we do to make this work for everybody?
Mark Hamrick with Bankrate.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Virginia. Thanks for having me.